Hello, everyone. Welcome to your new moon in Libra podcast episode. Before I jump in, I am so excited to tell all of you that my 2026 year ahead horoscope portal is now available on my website. It is just, I'm really proud of it. I put a lot of work and a lot of intention into it because I wanted to create a year ahead horoscope that was sort of like your own little private space, your own private portal to come to throughout the year, every month or multiple times a month, whatever you want to do, that is like your little world away from the world. Every month is its own separate portal where you will have your monthly horoscope presentation. It's a presentation style that is simple. So it's not cluttered with a lot of other aspects or other things going on. So if you're new to astrology, I think it's very digestible. And then below that presentation is additional content. Some of it's my own, some of it is other astrologers that I trust, and I really think there's a lot of really important or juicy material that some of you might really love. It's also other perspectives, other viewpoints that I think is really important as well. So each of the content below the presentation is directly connected to what is going on that particular month. So you don't have to worry about going back to another month or finding something else. So it's really just easy to follow because I wanted to create something that you could come back to every month, and that's all you need to focus on. That's all you need to look at. You don't need to remember this or remember that or come back to another month. So I think there's a lot of knowledge material, a lot of intellectually stimulating material. And then there's also material that is contemplative. That's, could be very personal to you, whether it's in the horoscope presentation for, that month, or it's the additional information below that adds more depth to that monthly horoscope. So I just think there's a lot of stimulation out there, and I just wanted to intentionally create something that is a little bit more peaceful, a little less overwhelming and overstimulating. So I'm really excited to launch that. If you are interested in the year aheads, I will be doing that. I'm also considering doing a monthly newsletter that will be sent out before, obviously, the next month to sort of sum up things or remind us to come back to, re-listening to it or preparing it. The last thing I will say that I'm really excited to include in the yearly horoscope is a little bit of human design. So if you've worked with me one-on-one, you know that I include human design and gene keys if I find it's necessary. But with the year ahead, I really when I say I really contemplated how can I help people connect to their compass, their inner guide. Because I think a lot of times with astrology, we listen to things and it can override our intuition. It can sometimes create more self-doubt or more confusion. So I really wanted to include something to really anchor each and every one of us into our authority, to help you understand how you can navigate this material in a way that's more designed for you. How are you meant to sort of sit with it or respond to it? Now, I will say it's not conclusive. There's a lot of other components to our human design. But in the how to begin section, I walk through everything. So if you're new to this channel, you're new to this type of content, I want to assure you that I really sat with every possible outcome. So if you're new and you're overwhelmed by this, I can assure you that there's a how to begin section. I even go through how to find your whole sign house system, what each of the planets look like, what each of the angles look like, the rulers. So I have a whole video dedicated to that before you even start your monthly horoscope. So if you're new, I go through all of that and explain that, as well as how to obtain your human design authority. So it's all there, you know, whether you're completely new or you're intermediate to advanced. So I'm just really, really excited to provide something that I feel really good about. And I hope, you know, a lot of you or all of you really respond well too, because I've never seen this done before, to be completely honest. I usually see a lot of downloadable content or digital guides. You look at it, you forget about it, you never come back to it. So I really wanted to really literally create a portal that all of us, including myself, can sort of come back to throughout the year, take notes, journal, you know, respond to it in a way with our human design that feels most aligned to us, and learn a lot, you know, a lot of knowledgeable material, intellectually stimulating material, but also contemplative material as well, to help provide a little bit more depth and understanding to those transits or aspects happening in that particular month. So go check that out. I think it's going to be great. Anyways, I wanted to dive into this new moon in Libra. Now, a lot of you know I don't talk about every new moon or full moon on this podcast, but this one jumped out at me. This one has some really interesting things going on with the midpoints. There's also a yod configuration. So yods are often called the finger of God. It can really create sort of this restlessness or pressure cooker kind of feeling to this new chapter or new beginning that some of us might be really feeling around this time. So I think this new moon has the potential to create the touchy-feelies in us. And then it really connects back to the area of Scorpio with this Mars Mercury conjunction, really tying into this story in a very interesting, complex way. So if you're watching, I will point out the visuals to you. If you're listening, just let it wash over you. I will break things down as best as I possibly can so that all of you can understand it, because there's going to be quite a bit of layers that I'm peeling back here, but I feel really lit up and really passionate about talking about this new moon. So let's get into it. Hello, Aries Risings. So this new moon in Libra here at 28 degrees, 21 minutes. This lands in your 7th house of personal and or professional partnerships, including marriage. So this could definitely be some form of a new beginning, a new chapter, a new idea, a new project, planting new seeds that you really want to cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months regarding personal and professional partnerships. Now, this could be something within a partnership or the desire for a particular partnership. Breaking this down a little bit more though, this new moon is ruled by Venus, and Venus is in rulership. So I do like that in terms of this Venus having enough essential dignity, resources, and strength to theoretically provide resources and strength to this new beginning or new chapter. This Venus, however, also rules your Taurus 2nd house of earned income and self-worth. So this new beginning could involve financial themes or self-worth themes within a partnership, or playing into a particular partnership you do want to attract. Now, this is where I'm going to get a little bit more detailed, so stick with me here, especially if you're new to astrology. At the exact time of this new moon here in Libra, it will actually be at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus. So I'm going to get Saturn up here. Excuse me if you're watching. Give me a second. Okay, so this new moon is sitting at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, as well as Jupiter and Pluto. So I'm going to break this down a little bit because midpoints can sort of blend energies of those planets regarding this new moon. So the Saturn-Uranus midpoint with this new moon, I think it could definitely be blending in some tension due to Saturn's strength and holding power versus the more Uranian innovation and change kind of energy. So you have Saturn's sort of strength and holding power at odds sometimes with this Uranian, I want to change, I want to innovate energy. So with this new moon regarding personal, professional partnerships, again, this could be new beginning, new chapter, new project, new idea, or new partnerships you do want to magnetize and attract. With the Saturn-Uranus midpoint, some of you might be exploring what needs to stay or what you need to hold on to versus what needs to evolve with what's unfolding at this juncture with this new moon. So maybe you want to begin something. Maybe you're thinking of something. Maybe you want to start something or attract something. It could initiate this unfolding of, well, what do I need to hold on to? What needs to stay versus what maybe I need to let go or maybe evolve or innovate in order to accommodate this new chapter. Maybe some of you want to liberate yourselves from something while trying to build something more fitting involving this new energy. And that could definitely involve personal and or professional partnerships. Now, the Jupiter-Pluto midpoint with this new moon could be blending in energies involving the desire for more empowerment and or expansion regarding this new beginning, idea, or chapter for some of you. So this new moon's interesting, where I think a lot of Aries risings, you could be internally or externally discussing or thinking, what do I want to evolve and change to accommodate this new chapter? What's worth holding on to? What maybe some of you are like liberating yourselves from, maybe you're realizing something or you want to change something within partnerships or the partnerships you want to attract. And you're like, man, this really isn't serving me anymore or us. And liberating ourselves or myself from this can help sort of reestablish a new foundation or reestablish something new within a personal or professional partnership. And that with the Jupiter-Pluto midpoint could definitely provide energy involving some sort of, cultivating empowerment or expansion to something over the next 5 or 6 months as we build towards the full moon in Libra in 2026. So here's where things get really interesting. As this new moon phase starts to separate, so let me get this separated just a little bit. So as this new moon starts to separate from the sun, it immediately starts to form a yod with Uranus in Gemini and Neptune in Aries. So Uranus here in Gemini, if you're watching, and Neptune in Aries. So the moon moves fast, so this is brief, but a yod, if you connect the dots here, here, and here, it forms an isosceles triangle. And this is what's called the yod formation or the finger of God. And sometimes it can create feelings of restlessness or some level of like a pressure cooker situation where, it sort of can sometimes feel like there's something to do. You need to do something. You need to you need to learn something. It just creates this like pressure and restlessness. So this could briefly, with this yod, create some sensitivity with the moon. And with Uranus and Neptune involved in this formation, some of you might even experience that sensitivity through Uranus. Maybe it's the nervous system. And Neptune, sort of spiritually, restlessness spiritually, sort of like your mental state, your open mind, mysticism, that kind of energy. Or like I said, the moon, experiencing it more emotionally, how you nourish yourself. So I think all of us could be experiencing the pressure, this brief pressure. Again, the moon moves quickly. So I think a lot of us will only feel this around this time on the 21st, where, again, I think all of us are going to feel this variety of pressure, stress, or restlessness involving this new chapter, wanting to start something new, having an idea, launching something that for Aries risings could very well involve the themes of partnership, whether it's personal or professional. And that a lot of you could be feeling more sort of the mental, the open mind sensitivity and tapping into things, the spiritual aspect of it. And again, some of you might be literally feeling it in your bodies, where you're feeling it sort of through your nervous system with that Uranian energy, and then emotionally with the moon. So again, yods can definitely create a pressure cooker situation that I think it's interesting how when it's still in a new moon phase here, but it starts to separate, like it's starting to build. So as we sort of start moving towards the new idea, the new chapter, the new opportunity, and some of us are stepping into, you could definitely feel that pressure or that stress. So again, just take care of yourselves around this time. Slow down a bit, tune in. What are the messages? What's being mirrored back to you, especially because this new moon is in your 7th house, which is sort of the mirror to your 1st house of self. So what's being mirrored back to you? What is it that you really want to initiate in terms of new partnerships, new connections that could be stimulating you in a new way? Now, taking it a little bit deeper, when we look at this yod formation with Neptune in Aries and Uranus in Gemini, the ruler or the landlord of this Uranus and the ruler of Gemini is Mercury. The landlord of this Neptune or the ruler of Aries here is Mars. And lo and behold, we have Mercury and Mars exactly joined together in your Scorpio 8th house. So there's a lot of peculiar connections with this new moon, where the yod formation could definitely stimulate that desire to start new connections, new partnerships, new opportunities, chapters within partnership that I think a lot of Aries risings you might be stepping into or desiring around this time, that could feel that pressure, that could feel that stress, where ultimately with the two base planets forming the base of that triangle are ruled by Mercury and Mars. And Mercury and Mars are connected in the Scorpio 8th house of transformation, transformational work, transformational decisions, partners' resources, investments, assets, debt, loans, really those long-term financial themes as well for some of you. So some of you, it could involve sort of transformational decisions, transformational work, or for some of you, it could involve more financial aspects or resources involved in this situation. So ultimately, this new moon starting to form this yod ultimately connects back to this Scorpio 8th house of transformation, long-term financial themes, partners' resources, if applicable, where Mercury and Mars, also in rulership here, which is very strong and well-resourced, could be communicating the new plan of action, desire, or motivation regarding transformational work, transformational decisions, and financial themes that could be directly tied to this new beginning, new chapter, new idea, or new opportunities you want to create regarding personal and professional partnerships. Hello, Taurus Risings. So this new moon in Libra at 28 degrees, 21 minutes on October 21st. This is landing in your Libra 6th house of daily work and health routines. So generally speaking, definitely a good time to pay attention to what new beginnings, new ideas, new chapters, or opportunities coming up around this time involving your health, your wellness, your vitality, your work, colleagues, coworkers, or routines. So some of you could just be establishing new routines that set you up for success with a health situation, a work situation. Some of you could be starting new projects, new ideas, or as far as even new opportunities with work or health. What I do like about this new moon is that it is ruled by Venus, and Venus will be in rulership here. So Venus in rulership has a good amount of strength, essential dignity, and resources to, I think, help support this new moon. But Venus also is your ruling planet. It rules your Taurus first house of the self, the physical body, identity, how you want to show up in the world. So this could also create new effects to your physical body, how you want to show up in the world, how other people view you regarding your health or a work situation even. But breaking this down a little bit more specifically, if you're new to astrology, bear with me here. I'm going to get a little bit nitty-gritty with this. So at the exact time of this new moon in your 6th house of daily work and health routines, this new moon will be at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus here. So Saturn here, Uranus here, if you're watching, as well as Jupiter here and Pluto. So we have a couple midpoints, and midpoint. I like to look at midpoints as blending of those energies. What's blending in the background that could be really playing into this new beginning, new chapter, new opportunity for you, Taurus Risings, regarding work, health, routines. So with this new moon at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, I think this could be blending in some tension due to Saturn's strength and holding power versus the Uranian innovation and change energy. So maybe some of you are feeling this tug of war of wanting something stable and reliable in your routines, your work, or your health, but that Uranian energy being blended into it could be like, well, maybe there is a part of you that wants to innovate or change your routine, your wellness, your work, but you are trying to balance that with some sort of stability or security or structural component to what is going on with those themes. So it could be a little tug of war with Saturn and Uranus because these are two very different planets. So it could just require some compartmentalization of, well, what do I need to innovate and change in order to create more longevity and stability in what feels good to me, right? That Venus also rules your Taurus first house of the physical body and the self. So what feels good to you ultimately? This new moon at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto could be blending in the desire for more empowerment and expansion regarding the desire for this new beginning, an idea, new chapter of some sorts with the health, the work, the routines. So again, there could be this, okay, how do I create this longevity, that Saturnian stability and foundation, but also maybe some of you are wanting to liberate yourselves from what no longer feels supportive, what no longer feels good to that foundation. That ultimately with the Jupiter-Pluto midpoint could be blending in the energy of, well, how can I ultimately create more empowerment and expansion to my health, my work, and my routines with this new chapter, this new beginning, a new opportunity, a new idea, a new project, whatever is going on around this time. Now, here's where things get a little bit interesting for me. When this new moon here starts to separate from the sun, so I'm going to bump this up a bit. As the new moon phase starts to separate from the sun, it immediately starts to form a yod configuration, which is an isosceles triangle. It's also called the finger of God. So it's still in the new moon phase, but as it starts to move away from the sun and start to move into more of that building phase, it briefly forms a yod with Uranus and Gemini here and Neptune in Aries here. Now, I think this is really peculiar because the yod configuration, when it's still in this new moon phase, but it starts to move away from the sun, starts to build more towards, it's starting to build its journey towards the full moon phase, basically. The yod formation creates pressure. I like to look at yods as this restlessness, this pressure, this seeking sort of energy. It definitely has I feel like it's like the seeker. It wants to go, it wants to know, it wants to learn. It's restless. And so this could create an energy around this time where whatever new beginning or new desire for you Taurus risings, where maybe you want to liberate yourself from something and move into a new chapter of more expansion, more empowerment that you can ultimately cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months into 2026 around your work, your health, and your routines that ultimately support your physical body, your identity, how you want to take independent action and show up in the world. But the yod creates this tension, maybe you're insatiable about it. Maybe you're really seeking knowledge or information or something to figure it all out. So this could definitely briefly around the 21st create that restlessness, that pressure. And I think for all of us, that pressure or sensitivity could come from a variety of ways. So with this yod formation, with this moon, Neptune, and Uranus here, for some of us, it could be through the moon. It could be through how you nourish yourselves, how your emotions. So some of you could be experiencing that restlessness or that pressure that's being driven by your emotions or how you want to nourish yourself. Some of you, it might be through Neptune. It might be more mental, more idealistic, more mystical, more spiritual. And then for some of you, it could be through Uranus, where you could feel that anxiety. You could feel it through your nervous system. You could feel that sort of, I got to get up and go. I got to move. So again, pay attention to how it's really manifesting around this time and how you could simply ask yourselves, what am I feeling? What am I experiencing? What is that telling me about what I want to change, what I want to start, what new opportunities, new chapters I really want to step into regarding work, health, and routines that really support my body, how I want to take independent action, my identity, how I want to show up in the world. That for some of you, you might sit with, what do I need to hold on to versus what I need to evolve or create space for new things or create space for that change that I want to step into with work, health, or routines. So what's particularly interesting though about this new moon phase with Neptune and Uranus in this yod is that Uranus in Gemini, its landlord is Mercury. So Mercury rules Gemini, and Uranus is reporting to Mercury. We have Neptune in Aries reporting to Mars, right? Aries is ruled by Mars. And lo and behold, we have Mars and Mercury exactly conjunct together at the time of this configuration in your 7th house of personal and or professional partnerships. So I think for some of us, this new moon could definitely, like I said, stimulate us in a variety of ways to initiate a new chapter regarding, for you, the work, the health, and the routines. And that could also support your physical body and the self. But there could be this undercurrent of restlessness or tension in a variety of ways where I think some of you could be liberating yourselves from things that no longer serve your health or your work or your routines or really how you want to move through the world to ultimately build more empowerment and expansion for yourselves, where the two planets at the base of this yod are ruled by Mercury and Mars, exactly coincidentally joined together in that 7th house of personal and professional partnership, where this Mars is in rulership. It's very strong. It's very well resourced. So whatever is happening with this new moon and a variety of things that could be happening with what I just discussed and unfolding around this time, it's somehow connecting back to your connections, to your personal, professional partnerships, even marriage, if that's applicable to you, or the connections you do want to manifest, the connections you do want to make that could be playing into or helping support this new chapter, new idea, project, or opportunity for some Taurus risings around this time, where Mercury and Mars could be communicating this new plan of action, desire, or motivation around what is unfolding with this new moon at this time. Hello, Gemini risings. So this new moon in Libra at 28 degrees, 21 minutes, it lands in your 5th house of joy, creativity, self-expression, romance, and children, if applicable to you. So this could be a time of new beginnings, new opportunities, new ideas around joy. I mean, this could be a really wonderful thing, I think, for a lot of Gemini risings, where some of you could be stepping into a new chapter of cultivating more joy, more pleasure, more fun, creativity, self-expression, romance, or some of you, it could involve children, childcare, family planning, if that's applicable to you. So really, really get clear on what is specifically bringing you joy, or the joy that you do want to cultivate. What specifically is that thing that brings you joy and that you want to cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months into 2026 with this new moon. So that's generally, when we're talking about a new moon. Now, I'm going to peel back the layers throughout this episode, where this new moon is ruled by Venus, and Venus is in rulership here. So with Venus in rulership, I think it has a good amount of strength and resources to help this new moon, new beginning, new idea, new opportunity. But Venus also rules your Taurus 12th house of the subconscious, behind the scenes. So this, whatever new chapter around what is specifically bringing you joy, or the joy you want to cultivate, whether it's creativity, children, self-expression, romance, whatever it is that you want to cultivate. With Venus ruling the 12th house, it could have consequential effects to your mental health, your subconscious thought patterns, how you feel or operate behind the scenes, which could be a good thing. So this could have sort of trickle down effects to hopefully positively influencing, your mental thought patterns, your sleep, your solitude, behind the scenes stuff, that this new moon or new opportunity to cultivate more joy, more creativity, self-expression, etc., could also support that Taurus 12th house. Now, here's where I'm going to get a little bit nitty gritty, so bear with me here. The new moon, when it starts to, actually, not yet, I'm not even going to get into that yet. When this new moon is exact, it will actually technically be at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, as well as it will be at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto here. So with this new moon being at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, midpoints, in my opinion, tend to blend the energy into what is going on. So these other planets playing into this midpoint situation, they're sort of blending their energy into what this new moon, new chapter, new idea, opportunity, etc., could be really playing out or happening around this time. So with this new moon at the midpoint of Saturn Uranus, I think it could be blending in some tension due to Saturn's strength and holding power versus the Uranian innovation and change energy. So Saturn and Uranus can sort of butt heads, in my opinion, because you have one that really wants to commit, is very structural, likes commitment, longevity, and Uranus is like, I want innovation, I want change. And that can obviously create some tug of war or some tension energy, where some of you might be wanting to step into this new chapter, opportunity regarding those specific details of what brings you joy, what's your heart's desire. That could involve creativity, self-expression, romantic situations, children, whatever it specifically means to you. There could be this point where some of you are thinking, what do I need to hold on to? What needs to stay versus what do I need to innovate, change, or evolve with what's unfolding at this juncture in my life to accommodate this new chapter, where ultimately I think a lot of Gemini risings could start to focus on cultivating more joy and more fun, which I'm all about after the past couple of years, especially for a lot of Gemini risings with, Saturn doing the bulk of the transit through that 10th house. So a lot of Gemini risings, you've been really tested and challenged professionally, in business, publicly, also behind the scenes, mentally, doing a lot of mental work, with Uranus really going through your 12th house as well. So I think this could be a really great time for Gemini risings to say, what do I want this new chapter to feel like, given everything that's unfolded in the past couple of years? So what needs to stay? What needs to evolve and change? What no longer really supports your joy? What used to bring you joy but no longer does? And where can you maybe innovate or evolve, create space for the new things that could? So this new moon at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto, I think is also blending in, I think, the desire or opportunity to blend in empowerment and expansion regarding this new beginning. So how do you want it to feel? How do you want joy to feel in your body? How do you, following creativity, self-expression, romance, just incorporating more fun in your lives? What does that look like to you specifically? But I think with it at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto, what do you want it to feel like? How do you feel about joy actually creating more expansion and empowerment in your lives? Maybe some of you are wanting to move into a chapter after the past couple of years of creating more empowerment and expansion in a more joyful way instead of a hard, strenuous way. So I think this could be, for Gemini Rising specifically, I think this could be a really, really wonderful time to kind of get clear on what really brings you joy and how you want to cultivate that over the next 5 or 6 months into 2026. And ultimately, how can that support your mental health? How can that support even you personally, physically? So here's where things get even more interesting. Now, as this new moon, it starts to separate from the sun. I'm going to bump this along if you're watching. So as it starts to separate from the sun here, it's actually going to immediately start to form a yod configuration. So a yod is an isosceles triangle. It is also called the finger of God. And this moon here, still in a new moon phase, but separating, is going to form a yod with Uranus and Gemini here and Neptune and Aries here. So this is interesting because it's almost as if this, window of opportunity for, new joy, creativity, self-expression that you maybe want to cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months. The yod formation can present feelings of pressure or restlessness or both. So it can create a lot of pressure and restlessness in a way where, there's two quincunxes forming, where there could be this adjustment needed. So I think in many ways, this is a really beautiful, wonderful new moon, but it's kind of asking us, well, what needs to be adjusted in our lives? And for you, it's involving Uranus and Neptune here, where the pressure, the stress, or the sensitivity could be coming from Neptune, which could be more heady, sort of idealistic, spiritual, more sort of mystical sensitivity, restlessness, or pressure. Some of you, it might be with Uranus. So you could feel it through your nervous system. You could feel it, that physical stimulation, even anxiety. And some of you, it might be through the moon at the apex, where it's through your emotions, how you nurture yourselves, your emotional body and feelings. So pay attention to sort of how it's presenting and sort of manifesting that restlessness, that pressure, or that feeling of I've got to figure it out. I got to get to the bottom of it kind of feeling. And so this could definitely, again, I think for a lot of Gemini risings, sort of require some level of adjustment needed, what no longer serves, what no longer is working, but also what needs to come together to form more compatibility, what needs to be adjusted in order to create more ease, space, and time for joy. For some of you, it might be very simple, like a very minimal thing, such as, well, I've been working really hard with Saturn going through my 10th house of career and trying to figure out my career, trying to figure out my future. And that adjustment might just be, hey, you just need to make more time and space for feeling happy, feeling joyful, for enjoying life. And sometimes that can create opportunity. Sometimes when we're not paying attention to the thing we feel so much pressure for, we sort of step away from it and then it starts to unfold and happen. So this new moon is very, very interesting when you start peeling back the layers. And then taking it a little bit deeper with this yod formation, the landlord or the landlord of Uranus, so the ruler of Gemini, is Mercury. So Uranus is reporting to Mercury. And Neptune is reporting to Mars because Aries is ruled by Mars. And lo and behold, we have Mercury and Mars exactly conjunct at the time of this formation in your 6th house of daily work and or health routines. So it's sort of in some weird way connecting back to this 6th house of routines, work, health. So for some of you, maybe it's having you communicate or create a new plan of action, new desires and motivations around your work and or health routines in order to create that space or that time for that adjustment, for the time to figure it out, to initiate that new chapter, to create more space in your routine, to focus on the things that bring you more joy at this time, specifically whatever that means to you. So I think it's really, really peculiar that this new moon forming this yod configuration is somehow connecting back to this Mercury-Mars conjunction in that 6th house of daily work and health routines, where I think some of you ultimately could be feeling some sort of shift, the desire for this new idea, new opportunity, creating more space and time for those things that bring you joy, whatever that specifically means to you. But ultimately, where a lot of you, I think, could be communicating more deeply about new desires, new motivations, new plan of action around your work and or your health to figure out those routines that can support this new chapter that you can cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months into 2026. Hello, Cancer Risings. So this new moon in Libra at 28 degrees, 21 minutes, this is landing in your Libra 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate. So there's a lot on the table in terms of new opportunities, new ideas, new chapters, really being initiated around any themes involving home, family, property, real estate. So this could be relationships with family, people, things playing out with people you live with. This could be renovations, relocations. So really anything within those themes I would definitely pay attention to. So the ruler of this new moon and the ruler of your Libra 4th house is Venus. And Venus will be in rulership here, which is good because I think that Venus has a lot of strength and resources, I think, to help this new moon, new beginning, new chapter, new idea, new opportunity around those home, family, property, real estate themes. But Venus also rules your Taurus 11th house of your social network, your long-term goals. So this could somehow also have a positive effect on supporting your long-term goals, supporting the people you want to surround yourselves with. So there could be something sort of changing or shifting in your home, your relationships, really new beginnings that you want to cultivate that really support the foundational aspects of your lives that could also support the long-term goals, who you want to surround yourselves with. Now, taking this a bit deeper, I'm going to be sort of peeling back the layers here. This new moon, when it is exact, will actually be at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, as well as the midpoint of Pluto and Jupiter. So midpoints, in my opinion, blend the energy of those planets into what is potentially playing out with this new moon. And so breaking it down a little bit, when we have this new moon, again, new beginning, new idea, new opportunity that could be really involving the foundation of your lives, the people you live with, home, family, property, real estate. It could be blending the Saturn Uranian energy, which could be blending in some tension due to Saturn's strength and holding power versus the Uranian innovation and change energy. So whatever's playing out around this time, you could briefly start to feel, well, what do I want to foundationally hold on to that does support me? But also, what other aspects do I want to innovate or change that could be playing into the foundation of your lives? As well as this new moon being at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto, which could blend in, I think, the desire for more empowerment and expansion regarding this new beginning. So some of you might be asking yourselves, what living environment? Now, this could be a redecoration, a renovation, relationships with family. What foundationally are you working with at this juncture in your lives that you want to create more longevity and stability to, but also maybe innovate and change some aspects of it that can ultimately create a foundation for Cancer risings that empower and expand your ability. So what foundation can really support your expansion and empowerment especially moving into 2026? Now, here's where things get a lot more interesting. So as this moon starts to separate from the sun here, it starts to form a yod configuration with Neptune in Aries and Uranus in Gemini. Now, this is really interesting because sort of like as the moon starts to separate and starts to move away from the sun, this yod formation, it's going to be brief because the moon moves quickly. So you might only feel this around October 21st. But as the new moon phase starts to separate from the sun, its immediate formation to create a yod with Uranus and Neptune, this could really create some restlessness, pressure, and even some sensitivity. Because yods, it's this isosceles triangle with the moon, Neptune, and Uranus here that it's also called the finger of God. Some of you might have heard that over a yod, but it creates this feeling of, I'm trying to explain it because I actually have one in my natal chart. It creates this feeling of, I've got to figure it out. I'm restless. I just feel this insatiable pressure to just do more and learn more and figure it out. So this new moon, I think, could create this idea or desire for that expansion and empowerment and like what we really want to cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months here. And for you, Cancer risings, it's really foundational. Your home, family, property, real estate themes, where some of you might start to move into a brief space of that pressure to figure it out, or that pressure to move, that pressure to make it happen. And again, some of you could be feeling this in a variety of ways. Some of you might literally be feeling it through the moon So you might be feeling it, how you nourish yourself, your emotions. Some of you might be feeling it through Neptune, your spirituality, feeling the spiritual or that mental pressure. And then some of you might be feeling it through Uranus. You might be feeling it through your nervous system, that, get up and go, or that nervous energy or anxiety. So definitely pay attention to how you're feeling around this time, how it's presenting, even if it's brief. That could be an opportunity for you to say, okay, like what's working here? What's not working? What do I want to hold on to foundationally, but maybe what needs, maybe this uncomfortable pressure or restlessness is an invitation to explore, what maybe needs to innovate or change to create a new chapter that supports me foundationally and the new chapters and the new sort of ventures that you want to do. I also want to point out specifically just for Cancer risings, this could also be playing into and helping you set yourselves up for success foundationally for that Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees in your 10th house of career, business, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment. So some of you might really starting to be look at, what do I need foundationally? What needs to change in my daily home environment, people I live with, relationships with family, renovations, relocations, what space is going to really support me for what's to come for some of you in terms of what do you want to structurally change with your business, your work, what brings you more fulfillment. So really looking at the foundation of your chart and thus your lives, that can really provide the strength and the ability to cultivate all the other areas of your lives. So that's particularly interesting with the Yod formation. That could really stimulate a lot of us collectively to sort of, okay, that restlessness, that pressure, like, how do I figure this out? How do I make this happen? And taking it a little bit deeper, peeling back another layer, Uranus is reporting to Mercury because Uranus is in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. Neptune is reporting to Mars because Mars is rules over Aries. Lo and behold, at the time of this configuration or Yod configuration and new moon, we have Mars and Mercury, which the base of that triangle, Uranus and Neptune, are reporting to Mercury and Mars, which are exactly joined in your Scorpio 5th house of joy. So this is the 5th house of joy. It could include creative projects, self-expression, romance, children if applicable to you, but really what specifically brings you joy? What do you want to cultivate foundationally that can also support your joy, your self-expression, and any of those specific themes that really bring joy to you or are fun and pleasurable for you? So in some weird way, when you start to peel back the layers of this new moon, it's definitely in that 4th house of home, family, property, and real estate. Providing the opportunity to say, okay, what foundation, what do I need to change within my home? It could be a redecoration, a renovation, a relocation, or it could be relationships with family, people you live with. What is foundational to you that is specifically unfolding at this time that could create some pressure, some restlessness to initiate this new chapter, to cultivate the foundation that is fully going to support all the things that you want to do in your lives? That ultimately, as you peel back the layers, it all comes back to this 5th house. For some of you, it could be, well, what's going to support my children? What's going to support the plan of action with my family or expanding my family? For some of you, it could be, well, the foundation that's not only going to set me up for success and what I need to change with that, and also what I need to hold on versus what I need to hold on for that, but how it's all coming back to potentially communicating this new plan of action motivation and desire for more creativity, self-expression, romance, joy, fun, what specifically is fun and pleasurable for you at this juncture in your lives. And also for some of you who have children or are interested in family planning, could be an invitation to say, what foundationally is going to support all these areas of my life, but really ultimately come back to bringing me more joy and self-expression with my children or expanding my family. So I think that this is I think for Cancer risings, this is a very juicy new moon, especially with Jupiter in its place of exaltation in your first house of self as well, where I think this is a wonderful opportunity to, even if it's just through your mental state of imagining, what home do I want? How do I want to feel in my home? What is most going to support my long-term goals, the people I want to surround myself with, my career, my business, what brings me fulfillment? But ultimately, it's all kind of connecting back to maybe communicating that new plan of action, desire, and motivation around ultimately how it's going to support more joy, creativity, and self-expression in your lives. Hello, Leo risings. So this new moon in Libra at 28 degrees, 21 minutes will land in your Libra third house of communication, exchanging information, siblings, extended family. For some of you who know your chart and you have your IC in your Libra third house, this could definitely have strong home, family, property, real estate themes involved in this. But generally speaking, look out for those third house themes. So what's going on with your communication, conversations, siblings, extended family, your neighborhood, your community, short distance travel. So this could also be technology, transportation themes. So there's a lot on the table for Leo risings with this new moon, in my opinion. But whatever themes particularly resonate with you around this time, definitely pay attention to those or sort of hold those in your mind as we're going through this. So new moon, new beginning, new opportunity, new ideas with anything regarding communication, social media, technology, transportation, or personal communication with siblings, extended family, people in your everyday immediate environment, transportation, technology, short distance travel. That could really cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months into 2026 when we get the full moon in Libra. Now, this new moon is ruled by Venus, and Venus is in rulership. I do like this because Venus has good resource, good strength, I think, to support this new moon. But Venus also rules your Taurus 10th house of career, business, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment. So whatever you're initiating, new ideas, new conversations, exchanging information, what's playing out with any of those themes that I've listed that you really want to cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months, it could have a positive effect to your career, to your public recognition, or the things that bring you fulfillment. It could create more value to this area. So definitely look out for that. Now, let's get to the more juicy bits. So hang in there with me. This new moon is, when it is exact, will technically be at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus. So Saturn in Pisces and Uranus in Gemini. It will also be at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto. So let's break this down a little bit, because midpoints can sort of blend those energies of those planets into this new moon, new idea, new beginning, new opportunity, etc. So with the Saturn-Uranus midpoint, this could be blending in some tension, in my opinion, because Saturn's strength and holding power could also be at odds with the Uranian innovation and change energy with this midpoint. So what needs to stay versus what needs to evolve with what's unfolding at this juncture. Maybe some of you are moving into a new change or new innovation, but you're also evaluating parts that do work, parts that you do want to hold on to. The Uranian element could also have maybe some of you wanting to liberate yourselves from something regarding communication, exchanging information, siblings, extended family, people, places, and things within your immediate environment that maybe you're just like, I just want to liberate myself from this. This doesn't serve me anymore, or I don't want to communicate with the world like this anymore. So that Uranian element could have some undercurrent of liberating yourselves from something that just no longer serves those third house themes. The Jupiter-Pluto midpoint, so this new moon at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto, I think could really blend the desire for more empowerment and expansion regarding this new beginning, new idea, or chapter for some of you. So I think whether it's through communication, your personal communication, or professional communication fields, siblings, extended family, short distance travel, whatever those third house themes are that's coming up around this time, some of you could be really utilizing those themes to create a new chapter to ultimately cultivate more power and expansion through those people, places, and things in your everyday environment. More power and expansion through how you communicate with the world, exchange information, maybe certain sibling or extended family relationships, neighborhood, people in your community, whatever it may be, to sort of play into that, putting the puzzle pieces together to create that empowerment and expansion that a lot of you are going to want to cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months, that again could have something to do with the other Venus ruled area, which is your career, your business, your public recognition. Now here's where things get even more interesting as we peel back the layers. As this new moon, still in this new moon phase, but as this new moon starts to separate from the sun in your Libra third house, it will actually immediately start to form a yod configuration with Uranus and Gemini and Neptune in Aries here. So it forms this isosceles triangle. Some of you might have heard yod configurations as the finger of God. It's the same thing. And so basically, a yod can sometimes create an energy of restlessness, pressure, and even sensitivity. So whatever idea, initiation, things that are really starting around this time, especially with third house themes, that could technically, I think for some of you, involve career, public recognition themes as well. It could start to immediately initiate this pressure or restlessness to figure out the situation, to initiate it, to make it happen. Some of you could be feeling very stimulated to figure it all out. Now, some of you could feel it in a variety of ways. Some of you, it could be through the moon. It could be through your emotions. Some of you, it could be through Neptune, where some of you could be more spiritual or mystical about it. And some of you, it could be through Uranus. You could be very stimulated. You could feel very electrical. You could feel this in your nervous system. Some of you could feel that get up and go, that just a lot of intellectual stimulation or even anxiety, just nervousness, restlessness. So again, some of you could feel this in a variety of ways, but definitely pay attention to how you're feeling around this time, because it could be playing into what is pressurized, what you're trying to figure out, and ultimately will be released. So when I go a little bit deeper, I want to peel back another layer where if you look at this yod here with the new moon, Uranus, and Neptune, Uranus is reporting to Mercury because Mercury rules Gemini. Neptune is reporting to Mars because Mars rules Aries. And lo and behold, we have Mars and Mercury exactly conjunct at the time of this yod formation and new moon in your Scorpio fourth house of home, family, property, and real estate. So, yes, it is a new moon in that Libra third house. But when you look at the configurations and the players in that yod formation and who they're reporting to, they're all this pressure, this restlessness energy, this new beginning, this new chapter. I feel like it's all pressurizing and sort of all reporting back to what is being communicated, what's the plan of action, motivation, or desire regarding the foundation of your lives. So a lot of what you're communicating, exchanging information, maybe creating a new chapter, new idea, new opportunity professionally with communication fields, short distance travel, or could be personally through siblings, extended family, people, places, and things within your everyday immediate environment that could really stimulate this pressure or this restlessness to uncover something, to figure something out that's ultimately going to support some plan of action, communication, motivation, or desire regarding your home, family, property, and real estate. So really creating some sort of plan of action, communicating that plan of action with what is unfolding or being stimulated from this new moon and this yod configuration that is having you maybe look at a new plan of action, desire, or motivation around the foundation that's fully going to support this new chapter, new idea, or new opportunity around this time. Hello, Virgo Risings. So this new moon in Libra at 28 degrees, 21 minutes, it lands in your Libra second house of earned income and self-worth. So I'm going to be peeling back the layers throughout this podcast episode. So with this new moon being in your second house of earned income and self-worth, this could definitely be a new beginning, a new chapter, a new opportunity to step into a financial opportunity, new financial budgets, or it could involve more of your self-worth and your value, stepping into a new chapter of valuing yourself, your self-worth, really anchoring yourselves into that. Now, the ruler of this new moon and also the ruler of your Libra second house of earned income and self-worth is Venus. And Venus will be home. Venus will be in rulership here. So I do like this because I think that Venus has a good amount of resources and strength in Venus's own home to sort of support this new moon or new beginning and new opportunity, which I really like. Now, Venus also rules your Taurus ninth house of growth and potential. So whatever's going on financially or going on with self-worth that a lot of you could be stepping into, or those themes could be integrated into this new chapter, new beginning around this time for some of you. It could also serve your growth and potential financially or through your self-worth, because Venus also rules this Taurus ninth house. So some of you, it could also support your education, your travel plans, your spirituality, publishing, teaching. And for some of you with your midheaven in Taurus, it could also involve sort of investing either financially or investing your self-worth into your career, your business, or what brings you fulfillment. So those could be sort of additional undercurrents around this time for some Virgo risings. Now, peeling back another layer. This new moon, when it's exact on the 21st, it will technically be at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, as well as the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto. So midpoints really can sort of, in my opinion, blend the energy of those planets into this new moon. So it can give me additional clues as to sort of the energy, the undercurrents, what else is going on that could be playing into this new beginning or new chapter. And for you, Virgo risings, likely around your finances, your financial budget, or a self-worth situation. And so with this new moon at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, this could be blending some tension, because Saturn and Uranus sometimes can be at odds with each other. So there could be some undercurrent or feelings of tension briefly on this day between Saturn's strength and holding power versus that Uranian innovation and change. So some of you might feel regarding what's going on for some of you regarding finances or a self-worth situation. Some of you might be feeling like a part of you wants to hold on to something, sort of stabilize it, create longevity around it, versus there could be another part of you that's like, well, I also need to innovate or change or have some adaptability to this situation. And that sometimes could be at odds or just might require you to take some time and space to sort of be able to blend and merge those two worlds together. Additionally, this could have some liberating effects. So with Uranus involved, some of you might want to liberate yourselves from something. So maybe you want to liberate yourselves from something that really doesn't serve your self-worth, that really doesn't serve your value. Or maybe some of you want to liberate yourselves from something that really doesn't serve your finances, your financial future, your financial budgets, to help support that Saturnian foundational longevity sort of commitment to maybe a new chapter financially or a new chapter involving your self-worth. With this new moon at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto, I think this could definitely blend additional energies of empowerment and expansion regarding this new beginning. So some of you could be moving through sort of this time period of, okay, well, ultimately, how am I going to empower and expand my self-worth? How am I going to empower and expand my financial future to move into this new chapter regarding where I want to go and how I want to feel? Now, peeling back more layers, as this new moon starts to separate from the sun here. So if you're watching, I'm just going to bump this forward. So as this moon starts to separate here from the sun, it immediately starts to form what's called a yod configuration with Uranus and Neptune. So Uranus in Gemini and Neptune in Aries. And a yod formation is an isosceles triangle that some of you might have heard it as the finger of God. It's the same thing, but it essentially, on this day, this moon is still in this new moon phase, and it immediately forms this yod configuration that sometimes can create pressure and restlessness. So there could even be some sensitivity too. So some of you might be stepping into, well, I want to create this new chapter. How do I do it? And yods, as someone who has a yod in their natal chart, yods can create this pressure and restlessness to figure it out. Sometimes it can feel even insatiable. You just keep wanting to learn, you keep wanting to go. It's just this dynamic sort of, I've got to do it, I've got to figure it out sort of energy. And so, whether it's a financial situation or a self-worth situation for some Virgo risings, there could be this pressure, sensitivity, or restlessness to figure it all out as soon as possible. Now, we could be feeling this yod restlessness in a variety of ways. Some potential ways could be through the moon involved in the yod. So for some of you, it could be through your emotions. For some of you, it could be through Uranus. So you could feel it in your nervous system. You could feel sort of that just that mental buzzy sort of nervous anxiety kind of energy. And then some of you, it could be through Neptune, where it could feel more spiritual, could feel more mystical. You could be sort of even dissociated or out of your body. So definitely pay attention to how you're feeling around this time and how you experience restlessness and pressure. We all experience it differently, and how that might provide some clues or understanding of the direction you need to go, what you need to sort of, we can use how we feel to understand how our body is communicating with us, what's really happening in our day-to-day lives, what we sort of maybe need to lean into. Maybe if it's a new beginning with finances or self-worth, maybe the restlessness or the pressure, it could be coming from a previous situation that you want to release or you want to liberate yourselves from. Maybe it could be from something that you really do want to uncover that can provide that Saturnian stability or longevity. So just, really pay attention to how you're feeling and how it could, instead of avoiding it, how it could be providing you even moments of wisdom through the process for some of you. So taking it a little bit deeper, the moon forming this yod with Uranus and Neptune here. Uranus is reporting to Mercury because it is in Gemini and Mercury rules Gemini. Neptune is reporting to Mars because it is in Aries, ruled by Mars. And lo and behold, we have Mercury and Mars exactly conjunct at the time of this new moon and yod formation. That's very peculiar to me because it's sort of as if the more you peel back the layers of what's going on here, where is this restlessness? Where is this potential pressure coming from? And for you, Virgo risings, this new beginning or new opportunity around figuring out a financial situation or a self-worth situation or both that could ultimately serve your growth and potential in your lives. But it's ultimately sort of all coming back to this situation or something unfolding where I think a lot of Virgo risings, with the base of this isosceles triangle and the two planets ruling it, Mercury and Mars, exactly conjunct in Scorpio, where this Mars in Scorpio is in rulership. It has a lot of strength to figure out this plan of action, the core motivations, the core desires. And it's in your third house of communication, exchanging information, those people, places, and things within your everyday immediate environment. So I think ultimately this could be the opportunity to, as you peel back the layers, it's coming back around to communicating more deeply about your core motivations, your core desires, and plan of action that is in full alignment to the financial future and self-worth you really want to cultivate moving into 2026. Hello, Libra risings. So this new moon at 28 degrees, 21 minutes, it lands in your Libra first house of the self, the physical body, how you want to show up in the world, take independent action. So this is really, I think, for some Libra risings, the opportunity for a new chapter involving how you want to feel in your body, how you want to move through the world, your identity. So this could be a great time to sort of initiate that new chapter around what you want to cultivate in terms of how you want to feel in your body, how you want to move through the world, appearance, identity, any of those themes. And the ruler of this new moon in your first house of self is ruled by Venus, your ruling planet. And Venus will be in rulership. Venus will be home in your Libra first house of the self. So Venus is in rulership, has a good amount of strength, resources, I think, to support this new moon. Now, Venus also rules your Taurus 8th house of transformation and more of those long-term financial themes. So investments, assets, debt, loans, partners' resources, if applicable. So for some of you, this new chapter could involve transformational work, transformational decisions, as well as financial themes integrated within this, or it could be playing a part with the outcome or impacts. So that's just sort of a general layer, but I'm going to be peeling back more layers as we go through this. So peeling back the next layer. When this new moon is exact, it will actually be at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, as well as being at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto. So to break this down, this new moon, new beginning, new opportunity involving the self, the physical body, how you want to move through the world, appearance, identity, etc. With it being at the midpoint of Saturn, Uranus, I think it could be blending. Midpoints tend to blend those planetary energies into this. So I think it allows us to understand a deeper feeling of what might be playing into this new moon. And with it being at the midpoint of Saturn, Uranus, I think it's blending in some tension because Saturn's strength and holding power can sometimes be at odds with the Uranus innovation and change energy. So some of you might want to create this longevity, commitment, even stability to your work, your health, your routines. But some of you there might be another part of you that wants to really innovate and change something else. And that might need some time to sort of figure that out or integrate that and blend it into this new beginning that fully supports you, fully supports how you want to feel in your physical body, how you want to move through the world. So with this new moon at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto, I think it's blending in additional energies that could ultimately create empowerment and expansion regarding this new beginning. So some of you might be looking at what you really want to cultivate with your physical body, how you want to feel in your body, how you want to move through the world, and how ultimately that can create more empowerment and expansion that can be cultivated within this new chapter. Now, here's where things get a lot more interesting, peeling back the next layer. As the moon starts to separate from this new moon, starts to separate from this sun, it's still in a new moon phase, it will immediately start to form a yod formation. Now, some of you might have heard of yods. They're also called the finger of God. It's basically an isosceles triangle. So this moon is going to form a yod with Uranus and Neptune. So Neptune in Aries and Uranus in Gemini. And yods could briefly, again, the moon moves quickly, so you're probably going to feel this around this day or around this day on the 21st. So yods can briefly create, or in this case, briefly create some restlessness, pressure, and even sensitivity. So yods, in terms of that restlessness and that pressure, yods can sometimes create situations where there is just this insatiable urge to figure it all out, to make the big change, to find more information, to get to the bottom of it, whatever it may be. And so some of you might be stepping into this new chapter initially feeling that I want to get up and go. I want to figure out how to initiate this new chapter. I want to start cultivating. You could just feel that pressure. Now, some of us can feel that in a variety of ways. Some of you might be feeling that through the moon involved in this. so your emotions. Some of you might be feeling it through Uranus, so you might be feeling it through your nervous system. You might be literally feeling that nervousness or that anxiety or just that sort of literally your body vibrating to go, 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 go. Or some of you might be feeling it with Neptune. You might be more dissociated. You might be more mystical. You might be more spiritual or operating in that realm with it. Whatever it may be, definitely tune into how you're feeling on this day or around this day as this Yod formation starts to form. Again, it will be brief. It will start to separate at the end of the day on October 21st, definitely by October 22nd, with the orbs involved in Yod formations. But there's definitely this brief period of new moon energy, this new beginning, new ideas, new, planting seeds that we want to cultivate, where there is this pressure, there is this restlessness that could occur for a lot of us. So taking it a little bit deeper, peeling another layer back. When we look at this Yod formation with the moon, Uranus, and Neptune, the base of this triangle, base of isosceles triangle here, we have Uranus reporting to Mercury because it's in Gemini, ruled by Mercury. And we have Neptune reporting to Mars because it's in Aries, ruled by Mars. And lo and behold, we have Mercury and Mars exactly conjunct in your Scorpio second house of earned income and or self-worth at the time of this new moon and Yod formation. I think that is really peculiar. That's really interesting because there's this new moon happening in your first house of self. How you want to feel in your physical body, how you want to take independent action, how your appearance. Some of you, it could be through your health, how you want to show up and move through the world for your work, whatever it may be. This new moon forming that Yod formation could create this brief period of pressure, intensity, restlessness to figure out the plan, to start cultivating it, to start moving and making it happen. And ultimately, when you look at the base of the triangle, where these two are actually forming a sextile formation, so they're sort of communicating the same language in this Yod formation. But we have the base of the triangle ruled by Mercury and Mars coming together to ultimately, as we keep peeling back the layers of this new moon, where is it leading us? And I think it's leading us to this Mercury-Mars conjunction in your Scorpio second house, where I think ultimately this new moon could peel back the layers through the rulerships, through the Yod formation. And ultimately, where Mercury and Mars, where Mars is in rulership, Mars has a lot of strength to add to this situation, which is a good thing in my opinion. But I think it ultimately unfolds towards some communication, some conversation that could be some deeper communication with yourselves, with others, that ultimately could be some communication regarding a new plan of action, a new desire, and new motivation due to this new moon, where you really want to create a situation that ultimately supports your physical body, supports how you want to move through the world. But it's coming and the layers are being peeled back and ultimately leading to that second house of earned income and self-worth, where I think your core motivations, your core desires could be communicating a new plan of action around your finances, how you want to make money, your financial budgets, your material possessions, and most importantly, your self-worth that could be tying into this new chapter. And so I think this could be a beautiful time for a lot of Libra risings to step into a new chapter where you could ultimately cultivate a situation where you feel better in your body, you feel stronger in your body, you feel stronger in your identity, how you want to move through the world and take independent action. But ultimately, it's peeling back the layers to say what needs to be communicated, maybe around your plan of action, your core motivations and desires, around your finances and or your self-worth, that could also be playing into this new chapter, new idea, new opportunity on October 21st. And so again, I think this is a really great time. Think about how you want to physically feel, what physically supports you, how you want to move through the world, and how maybe through the midpoints, your core motivations or desires might be changing. You know, some of you might be thinking about what you want to innovate and change, what you want to liberate yourselves from that no longer serves you and your physical body, and how you want to move through the world. And that might trickle down and peel back the layers to having some of you look at, well, you know, your outlook on finances, your outlook on money, your outlook on your self-worth could be changing, strengthening, evolving around this time as well to simultaneously support this new chapter. Hello, Scorpio risings. So this new moon, actually, if you're watching, I just want to get this exact for a moment. Here we go. So this new moon in your Libra 12th house of behind the scenes, subconscious thought patterns, sleep, solitude, dreams, the stuff we don't really publicly advertise with the world. It's more hidden. So this new moon here could, generally speaking, is going to be a new opportunity, a new beginning, a new idea that you could be working on behind the scenes, or it could be a new chapter and a new beginning around your mental thought patterns. Maybe some of you really want to cultivate sort of better thought patterns that really support you at this juncture in your lives, releasing ones that don't serve you anymore. The new moon here is ruled by Venus, and Venus will actually be in rulership in your Libra 12th house. So Venus in rulership, good strength, good resources, I think, to support this new moon in your 12th house. Now, Venus also rules your Taurus 7th house of personal and or professional partnerships. So maybe this could also have reverberating effects to your connections with others, who you magnetize into your lives, things playing out within personal or professional partnerships. So maybe some of you are starting something behind the scenes or initiating something mentally to cultivate a new chapter around your mental thought patterns that somehow for some of you might actually support your connections with others, might support your personal and or professional partnerships, including marriage, if that's applicable to you. Now, I'm going to be peeling back the layers through this. So that's just a very general beginning layer. But as this new moon is exact, the next layer I want to peel back is the midpoints. So when this new moon is exact, it will technically be at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, as well as being at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto. And so when looking at midpoints, I like to look at midpoints, particularly with moon cycles, because it can really help, I think, sort of blend the energy of those planets and give a little bit more detail as to what the undercurrents are with this new moon, new beginning, new idea, really initiating for you Scorpio risings, either behind the scenes or with mental thought patterns, dreams. You know, maybe you want to initiate something mentally behind the scenes that you ultimately want to cultivate in tangible real life over the next 5 or 6 months. Whatever it is, these midpoints, I think, can help blend additional energies and understanding to what might be playing out around this time. So with this new moon at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, this one's interesting because I think it could be blending in some tension. Saturn and Uranus can sometimes bump heads because Saturn has that strength and holding pattern, and Uranus wants to change and innovate. So with this new moon at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, there could be this brief tension on this day that some of you might feel mentally, that some of you might feel behind the scenes. Definitely pay attention to your dreams as well, where some of you might be toggling back and forth. You know, what's the part that you want to sustain, you want to hold on to, versus the part that maybe you really want to innovate and change. That could be playing into this new chapter or new opportunity or new idea playing out either mentally or behind the scenes. Now with this new moon at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto, this is, I think, blending in additional energies involving empowerment and expansion. So I actually think for Scorpio risings, you know, if you've been struggling with fears or limiting beliefs or self-sabotage behavior or, you know, the mental spiral that we all deal with at some point in our lives, this could be a good time for some Scorpio risings where there could be an opportunity to finally see the new chapter where you can cultivate that empowerment and that expansion involving the thought patterns, the ideas that you have mentally or you're working on behind the scenes. So this could be a great time to sort of empower your mental thought patterns, empower your sleep schedule, time alone, solitude, to cultivate more expansion and empowerment in your lives. So peeling back the next layer, as this moon starts to separate later in the day, or not even later in the day, well, it depends on what time zone you're in. I'm on Eastern Standard Time, or EDT. And so a few hours after the new moon is exact, this moon starts to separate from the sun and immediately starts to form a yod with Uranus in Gemini and Neptune in Aries. So a yod is an isosceles triangle. It's also called the finger of God. That sounds super intense, but it can create with the moon. It's going to be brief because the moon moves fast. But at some point in the day, some of you might feel that yod formation where you could feel that pressure. You could feel that restlessness to initiate it, to make it happen. Yods can also create situations where we have restlessness, where we keep, we got to figure it out. We got to keep, finding this information or this knowledge, or to get to the bottom of a situation and fully figure it out. So be aware of that around this time on October 21st. So a lot of us could feel this in a variety of ways. So some of you, it could be through the moon. It could be through your emotions. Some of you, it could be through Uranus. It could be through your nervous system. You could feel that restlessness, that anxiety, that stimulating feeling. And some of you, it could be through Neptune, where you could be dissociated. So some of us, when we feel pressure and restlessness, we can dissociate. We can sort of go into another world, and some of you, it might feel like you're more focusing more on the spiritual. You're focusing more on that sort of other world Neptunian flavor. So whatever you're feeling around this time, definitely be aware of it. It might provide information or wisdom to what is starting to build with this new chapter. Now, peeling back another layer, if we look at this yod formation, the two planets at the base of the triangle, Neptune and Uranus is reporting to Mercury because Uranus is in Gemini, ruled by Mercury. Neptune is in Aries, reporting to Mars because Aries is ruled by Mars. And lo and behold, we have Mercury and Mars exactly conjunct at the time of this yod formation and new moon phase. So this Mercury-Mars conjunction is in your Scorpio first house of the self, the physical body, how you take independent action, your appearance, your identity, how you want to move through the world. So although this new moon is happening in a very behind the scenes house that for some of you could involve your personal, professional partnerships or marriage, if that's applicable to you, it's definitely blending the energy of what do I want to hold on to versus what do I want to innovate, so that ultimately I can empower and expand in this new chapter that I want to cultivate. That when you start peeling back the layers, it ties back to your first house of self, where I think ultimately whatever unfolds around this time, that some of you could be stepping into this new chapter, this new idea that you really want to cultivate over the next 5 or 6 months, that could definitely impact how you perceive yourselves, how you perceive the world, your mental thought patterns, your dreams, your ideas, things you're working on behind the scenes that could eventually become that tangible reality. Whatever it may be, the restlessness and the pressure that some of you might feel to uncover it, to figure it out, to initiate it, it could all be coming back to Mercury and Mars ruling the base of that yod configuration in that first house of self, where I think a lot of Scorpio risings, you could be maybe coming to a point where as you work through the layers of this new moon, you could be ultimately communicating your new plan of action, new desires, and new motivations that ultimately support your physical body, how you want to feel, how you want to take independent action and show up in the world. So I think ultimately for Scorpio risings with this new moon, it's definitely bridging the gap between what's going on with you mentally and internally versus what's going to support you physically and how you move through the physical world. Hello, Sagittarius risings. So I'm going to be breaking this down in sort of a layered approach. So to start off very generally, we have obviously this new moon at 28 degrees, 21 minutes in your Libra 11th house of friends, groups, communities, long-term goals. So your social network, whether that's personal or professional, as well as those long-term goals, dreams, aspirations. Those are the main themes, the main sort of stage or arena you want to pay attention to. Now, this new moon could definitely bring new opportunities, new chapters, new ideas, even new friendships, connections, groups, or long-term goals into your lives. This new moon is ruled by Venus, and Venus will be in rulership. So by essential dignity, Venus has a good amount of strength and a good amount of resources, I think, to support this new moon. Now, Venus also rules your Taurus 6th house of daily work and or health routines. So whatever new beginning, new idea, new opportunity, project that could involve your social network, friends, groups, communities, or long-term goals, it could consequently also support something involving your work and or health. That's the general layer. Peeling back the next layer, this new moon will be at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, as well as the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto. Now, midpoints, in my opinion, really blend the energy of those planets into this new moon to sometimes help give us a perspective around the undercurrents, what might be playing in the background, what might be infused into this new beginning, this new chapter. And with the new moon, when it's exact at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, that could definitely bring undercurrent energies involving tension, because we have Saturn is typically, Saturn's strength and holding power could be at odds with that Uranian innovation and change energy. So this new moon, maybe some of you with this new moon want to start a new chapter, a new project, a new idea with friends, groups, communities, or it might involve new long-term goals, new dreams, new aspirations that for some of you could involve your career, your work. Whatever it may be, with it being at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, I think there could be a part of you that is looking at what you really want to hold on to, what has brought you strength or what you do want to strengthen, versus the other part of you that maybe wants to innovate and change regarding this new chapter. So maybe some of you want to start a new chapter with your social network or your long-term goals, and you want to take with you previous things that have worked with you, but you simultaneously want to release things and make space for new innovation or new change towards cultivating those new long-term goals or new connections with social network, whatever it may be. The other midpoint with this new moon being at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto, I think this could definitely blend in the desire for more empowerment and expansion regarding your social network, again, your friends, groups, communities, or your long-term goals, dreams, aspirations. So Jupiter, Pluto could definitely blend in the energy of providing, I think, Sagittarius risings this opportunity to see, well, how can I really empower myself, empower my social network, my long-term goals, and be able to also expand it with this new chapter, new opportunity, new idea, whatever's going on. Maybe it's even a new connection, a new friendship that is simultaneously sort of providing a new idea or a new opportunity. Either way, I think this could be a really great time for Sagittarius risings to get clear on the long-term goals. What goal do you want to pursue, cultivate? What new connections do you want to make in your social network that's going to help that long-term goal, that could simultaneously have you looking at what maybe worked before versus the other parts that maybe didn't and need some innovation and change to step into that new chapter, that new social network, the new connections, whatever it may be. Now, peeling back the next layer, as this new moon starts to separate from the sun, it will immediately start to form a yod configuration. Some of you might have heard of yods before. It's also called the finger of God. It's basically an isosceles triangle. So it's one sextile with two quincunxes. But if you're new to astrology, don't worry about that. This moon, which is still in a new moon phase, even though it's separating from the sun, is forming a yod configuration with Neptune in Aries and Uranus in Gemini. So this has the potential to create pressure and restlessness with this new chapter, this new idea. So some of you might really want to initiate and cultivate this new chapter, but it could have undercurrents of restlessness and pressure and even sensitivity. So the moon moves quick. It will be brief, but if you're really in the feels on October 21st or around the 21st, I wanted to point this out for you to just give you some deeper understanding of what might be playing out in your chart. And some of you might be feeling this in a variety of ways. So some of you might be feeling it through the moon, and it could be through your emotions. Some of you, it might be through Neptune. You might be dissociated. You might be more mystical. You might be more spiritual about sort of that pressure. You might be really sort of expanding your mind or looking really out there, opening your mind. And that's sort of how you process that restlessness or that pressure or sensitivity. Some of you, it might be through Uranus. So it might be through your nervous system. You might be feeling that electrical sort of restlessness, nervousness, or even anxiety to uncover, to figure it out, to, keep peeling back the layers to how am I going to initiate this new chapter, this new idea, this connection, my long-term goals, my dreams, aspirations. So yachts can really create this. It's kind of hard. It's sometimes hard to explain. I have a yacht in my natal chart, and I will say it sometimes feels like the desire for more knowledge, the desire for more layers, the desire to, sometimes it can sort of spiral into, why am I here? This pressure to figure it out, this pressure to, some people, it could be like a legacy. It depends on where it is in your chart, but yachts can just really create a lot of restlessness to figure it all out. And again, this is the moon. It will be brief, but if you're really feeling it, I wanted to point it out. So again, you could feel it in a variety of ways. Be aware of what's coming up around this day or on this day. It could provide wisdom into, what your body's maybe communicating to you, what your body's telling you. There could be wisdom in that. There could be, knowledge in that, in initiating this new chapter. Maybe it's bringing something up that happened in the past, and that's what you want to liberate yourself from with the midpoints with Uranus. Or maybe it's something that it's coming up where you're like, actually, I want to stabilize myself in this. This is what brings me stability. This is what's going to bring me the commitment and longevity towards my long-term goals or social network with the Saturn midpoint. So definitely pay attention to what could be communicating, because it could be helping sort of provide some perspective around this time. Peeling back the next layer. With this yod, with the moon, Neptune, and Uranus. Neptune and Uranus are at the base of the triangle. They're actually they're in a sextile. And they're basically speaking the same language in a way in this yod formation. And so Neptune is reporting to Mars because it's in Aries, and Aries is ruled by Mars. Uranus is reporting to Mercury because it's in Gemini, and Mercury rules Gemini. And lo and behold, we have Mercury and Gemini exactly conjunct at the time of this yod formation and new moon phase. So this is interesting because I feel like at first glance, you look at this new moon and you're like, oh, it's a new moon. It's in Libra. It's ruled by Venus. Venus is in rulership. This is great. And it is. But when you start really connecting the dots and peeling back the layers, it's having us come back to this Mercury-Mars conversation. And for you Sagittarius risings, this is in your Scorpio 12th house of the subconscious, thought patterns, behind the scenes, dreams, solitude. So this could be really, really intimate conversations with your closest loved ones. This could be just your mental thought patterns that you could be untangling behind the scenes. That this new moon could initiate, pressurize, and create some restlessness to figure it out, to create and cultivate the long-term goals, the dreams, the aspirations. Maybe it's new connections with friends, groups, communities that you're really desiring around this time. Or ultimately, it peels back the layers where Mercury and Mars, where Mars is in rulership, has a lot of strength and resources regarding what's going on behind the scenes that you're communicating within yourself or with your closest, most trusted people behind the scenes, where you're communicating maybe your new goals, your new desires, motivation, plan of action regarding this new moon, this new chapter, this new opportunity or new idea involving your social network, your long-term goals, your dreams and aspirations. Hello, Capricorn Risings. So this new moon in Libra at 28 degrees, 21 minutes, it lands in your Libra 10th house of career, public recognition, business, what brings you fulfillment. So this could definitely have general themes of new beginnings, new opportunities, new projects, new connections, whatever it may be, new ideas with career, business, public recognition, or those things that bring you fulfillment if career is not a current theme. So I'm going to be peeling back layers with this new moon because there's some really interesting layers that I think just unfold in really peculiar ways. So I'm going to start off super general with, yes, this is a new moon, new chapter, new opportunity, new idea with career, business, public recognition, what brings you fulfillment. The ruler of this new moon is Venus. Venus is in rulership in your Libra 10th house. So by essential dignity, good amount of strength, good amount of resources to support this new moon. Venus also rules your Taurus 5th house of joy, your heart's desire, creativity, self-expression, children. So those themes could also be integrated or infused with this new moon for some of you. So maybe some of you are creating a new chapter or trying to cultivate a new chapter with what brings you fulfillment or career, business, public recognition that feels more creative, that feels more self-expressive, that feels more joyful for you. The next layer that I want to really talk about is with the midpoints of this. So midpoints can blend other planets and their energy into this. So in my opinion, it can really kind of help explain the undercurrents of what this new moon or new chapter might be sort of involving. And this new moon, when it's exact, will be at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus. And it will also be at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto. But I'm going to start with Saturn and Uranus because with this new moon at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus are kind of conflicting planets, right? Saturn, you have a lot of strength and holding power, and Uranus, you can have a lot of innovation and change. And so these two can sort of butt heads. And so there might be a part of you that wants to stabilize, that wants to create that longevity and strength with the things that bring you fulfillment or career themes, business, public recognition. And then there could be another part of you that really wants to innovate, change, create space for that innovation and change. So this could require some balance, or it could bring up some brief tension on this day where you're trying to sort out, what do I really want to change versus what do I really want to hold on to? Now with this new moon at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto, I actually think that this blends the energy of empowerment and transformation. So some of you might be asking yourselves around this time, how can I really empower and transform my career, my business, my public recognition, or what brings me fulfillment? And that can ultimately, with this new moon energy, hopefully be cultivated over the next 5 or 6 months. Now, peeling back the next layer, as this new moon starts to separate from the sun, so it's still in a new moon phase, but as it starts to separate, it's going to start to immediately form a yod configuration. Now, some of you might have heard of yods. They're also called the finger of God. Super intense, I know. But it's basically an isosceles triangle. So this new moon, if you're watching, will form a yod with Neptune in Aries and Uranus in Gemini. So the moon moves quickly, so this will be brief, but I think it's worth pointing out if you're feeling that yod pressure, restlessness. Sometimes yods can create this pressure and restlessness that can sometimes make us feel like we have to get to the bottom of it. We have to just keep going and figuring it out. It's like You're constantly researching, you're constantly looking for more, the next thing. And so briefly on this day, you might feel that pressure or restlessness to figure out this new chapter that you really want to step into with what feels more fulfilling to you, or it could be career, business, public recognition related. This restlessness or nervousness, if you're feeling it around this time, could come up in a variety of ways. Now, some of you might be feeling it through the moon. Some of you it might be felt through that emotional, the moon and our emotions. Some of you it might be through Neptune. You might feel more dissociated. Maybe you feel more spiritual. Maybe you're wanting to sort of look at the bigger picture or look at other dimensions or sort of those spiritual sort of outside of ourselves realms or whatnot. Some of you it might be through Uranus, and that's the nervous system. So some of you could feel it vibrating or like physically stimulating your body. You might feel, maybe some of you feel it through anxiety. Maybe you feel a little burnt out. Maybe you feel just overstimulated. So definitely take note if you're feeling that any variety of that pressure or restlessness, because it could provide some wisdom or some knowledge to maybe what is working versus what's not working. So again, going back to the midpoints, whatever you're experiencing or feeling, it could be bringing up previous experiences or previous memories where you could be given the opportunity to say, you know what, that really does need to innovate or change with that Uranus midpoint. Or some of you might be feeling really, the nervous, the anxiety, and might be saying, actually, I'm remembering something that does help provide some longevity and stability to this situation. And so basically just using whatever you're feeling or experiencing as potential resources for wisdom and uncovering. That's not even a word. Uncovering what you maybe want to strengthen and hold on to versus what you want to innovate and change with this new chapter that could be really initiating around career, business, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment. Now, peeling back the next layer, when we look at this yod that's briefly formed on October 21st with this new moon phase, we look at the base of the triangle, and that's Neptune and Uranus, and they're in a sextile formation. So in a yod configuration, they're basically speaking the same language. And Neptune is reporting to Mars because Neptune is in Aries, ruled by Mars. Uranus is in Gemini, reporting to Mercury because Mercury rules Gemini. And lo and behold, Mercury and Mars will be exactly conjunct in your Scorpio 11th house at the time of this yod formation and new moon phase. I think this is really interesting as you keep peeling back the layers of this new moon, and it leads you back to that Scorpio 11th house of friends, groups, communities, long-term goals. So whatever is unfolding with this new moon, yes, it is technically in your 10th house of career, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment. You could definitely, some of you could feel that restlessness, that pressure to figure it out, to figure out this new chapter, to initiate something new that feels better for you, even with Venus ruling that Taurus 5th house of joy. But ultimately, you keep peeling back the layers, and it comes back to this Mercury-Mars conjunction where Mars is in rulership in Scorpio as well. And I think this is where you peel back the layers, and it can ultimately come down to a conversation, a connection that could feel deeper, to uncover new desires, new motivations, a new plan of action around your long-term goals who you want to surround yourselves with, those people that support those long-term goals, those core motivations, desires, and plan of actions as well, that could all start from cultivating a new chapter around what brings you fulfillment, your career, your business, and public recognition. Hello, Aquarius Risings. So this new moon at 28 degrees, 21 minutes, it lands in your Libra ninth house of growth and potential. What do I mean by growth and potential? Think of higher knowledge, spirituality, travel, publishing, teaching. For some of you with your midheaven, if you know your midheavens here, it could be career, public recognition related as well. Either way, this new moon could be a new opportunity, a new beginning, a new idea that could initiate growth and potential themes. So new knowledge, new travel plans, new spirituality, uncovering, more truth, more belief, more, bigger picture plans in your life. That could definitely be career related. And this new moon is ruled by Venus, and Venus will be in rulership. So by essential dignity, Venus has a good amount of strength and resources, I think, to support this new moon and new chapter that some of you might be really looking at in terms of how can I cultivate more growth and potential in my life that provides me more love and more value. Now, I'm going to be peeling back the layers with this new moon. So that was just a very super general layer. The next layer I really want to go into is the midpoints. And when this new moon is exact, it will actually be at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, as well as the midpoint of Pluto and Jupiter. Now, what I like about midpoints, in my opinion, it can really help provide some undercurrent energy that could be playing a part in this new beginning, this new idea, this new journey, whatever it may be, around your growth and potential. And with this new moon at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, it could be creating some tension. We have Saturn and Uranus. Saturn has strength and holding power. It's also your ruling planet. It rules your first house of self. And then we have Uranus that wants to innovate and change. And so with this new moon or this new chapter, there could be this tension, and tension's not always a bad thing. It could just be an opportunity to see the part of you that wants to hold and sustain versus the part of you that wants to innovate or change. So some of you might want to create stability and longevity around these growth and potential themes that you really want to cultivate going into 2026. And some of you might also want to maybe innovate or change parts of it. Maybe you want to change up the way you pursue it. Maybe you want to try something new. Whatever it may be, see where you can sort of integrate that strength and holding power versus the parts that maybe don't serve you or maybe need to change it up or innovate it a bit. And with this new moon at the midpoint of Pluto and Jupiter, I think this could definitely add or blend in the desire for more empowerment and expansion regarding this new beginning. So some of you might be looking at travel, spirituality, higher knowledge, publishing, teaching, whatever growth and potential themes or specific themes mean to you. How can this new chapter, new idea, new opportunity for some of you, whatever it may be, how can you blend in empowerment and expansion themes? How is this going to empower you? How is this going to expand what you want to expand regarding this new idea, new chapter, new opportunity that could really carry you into 2026? And now peeling back the next layer. When this new moon, it's still going to be in a new moon phase, but it's going to start to separate from the sun. As soon as this new moon starts to separate from the sun, it is going to immediately form a yod configuration with Neptune in Aries and Uranus in Gemini. Now, some of you have heard of yods. They're also called a finger of God. It's like really intense way to put it. It's basically Neptune and Uranus in a sextile, both making quincunx aspects to the moon up here. So it forms an isosceles triangle, and it can create pressure. It can create restlessness. And the moon moves quickly, so I think this will be brief. But if you're feeling that pressure and restlessness to go and to figure it out and to uncover all what you need to do and just, cultivate this new chapter, this new idea, and sort of, some of you might feel like you're spinning yourselves, and it could just feel like it's a lot of pressure. If you're feeling that way, the moon moves very quickly. It will start to separate from being the apex of that triangle, that isosceles triangle, and it should dissipate over time. But some of us could feel this yod in a variety of ways. Some of you might be feeling it through the moon, through your emotions. Some of you might be feeling it through Neptune. You might be feeling sort of dissociated or very spiritual or sort of mystical. Some of you might be feeling it through Uranus, where you're physically feeling that nervousness through the nervous system, through anxiety or just constant movement. So whatever you're feeling, if you're feeling that pressure or restlessness, again, it could come in a variety of ways. It could come through, how these planets express themselves in your personal chart or personal lives. Either way, take note of it. What is your body telling you? Is it telling you, going back to the midpoints, is it telling you, actually, this isn't really serving me anymore, and I do need to innovate and change it with that Uranus midpoint? Or maybe it's bringing back a memory, or you're remembering something and you're realizing, actually, I do want to stabilize this. I do want to strengthen this or hold on to this and cultivate this within this new chapter into 2026. Whatever it may be, think back to the midpoints. Like, how do you ultimately want to empower and expand with whatever's coming up around this time? And for some of you, it could be physical. You could be feeling that restlessness or that pressure briefly on this day. Now, peeling back another layer. At the base of this isosceles triangle in this yod formation, we have Neptune reporting to Mars because it's in Aries, ruled by Mars. And then we have Uranus reporting to Mercury because it's in Gemini, ruled by Mercury. And look at that. We have Mercury and Mars exactly conjunct at the time of this yod formation and new moon phase in your Scorpio 10th house of career, business, public recognition, or what brings you fulfillment. So as you peel back the layers, yes, this is a new moon in your 9th house of growth and potential. And again, it could involve teaching, publishing, traveling, spirituality, higher knowledge, the growth and potential themes, even specific ones I didn't even list. Whatever it means to you, that as you peel back the layers, it somehow leads you back to this really powerful Mercury-Mars conjunction where Mars is in rulership, very strong, really trying to get to the bottom of it, right? This Mars has precision and accuracy to it. And this Mercury is communicating deeper, richer. And they're blending their energy together. And so whatever unfolds in terms of, yes, this general new opportunity, new idea, new beginning around any of those growth and potential themes that I listed or didn't even list, what it means to you, ultimately, it could come back around and peel back deeper and deeper layers around this time. Or some of you could be communicating new desires, new motivations, and a totally new plan of action around your career, your business, your public recognition, and what brings you fulfillment. Hello, Pisces Risings. So I'm going to be peeling back deeper and deeper layers with this new moon at 28 degrees, 21 minutes in your Libra 8th house of transformational work, transformational decisions, and more of those long-term financial themes. So investments, assets, debt, loans, trust, inheritance, partners' resources, if applicable. So this new moon, generally speaking, top layer, right? New moon, new opportunity, new chapter, new idea regarding transformational work, making transformational decisions, and financial themes, long-term financial themes, or a partner's resources, if applicable. The ruler of this new moon is Venus, and Venus will be in rulership, which I think is helping the situation. Venus is in rulership by essential dignity, has a good amount of strength and resources, I think, to support this new moon. So peeling back the next layer, I want to get into the midpoints of this new moon, because the midpoints could be blending, or it is, in my opinion, blending other planetary energies into what the undercurrents might be involving this new chapter or new beginning or new idea involving those 8th house themes. So this new moon is at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, as well as Jupiter and Pluto. So starting with just Saturn and Uranus. So this new moon at the midpoint of Saturn and Uranus, I think, has the potential to create a little bit of tension, where Saturn has the strength and the holding power versus Uranus having that Uranian innovation and change. So sometimes Saturn and Uranus can sort of clash because one wants to hold and create commitment and longevity to what is established, and one wants to change and innovate it. And so when it comes to transformational work, working with, your fears, or what's going on with the transformational work, or if it's more financial or financial themes, I think some of you might be looking at, well, what do I want to hold on to and strengthen through transformational work or finances, versus another part of you that wants to innovate and change transformational work or financial goals, financial management, etc. And so some of you might be feeling this, and the tension could be good tension. It could be, what worked before, what do I think has that holding longevity and power, versus maybe creating some space for something new, more innovative, more, Uranian to sort of come into the picture on managing finances, financial future, transformational work, whatever specific theme really is amplified around this time. Now, this new moon is, like I mentioned, at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto. And I think with this new moon being at the midpoint of Jupiter and Pluto, it could really blend additional energies of desiring more empowerment and expansion regarding new beginnings, new chapters involving financial management, financial budgets, or the transformational work, the transformational decisions. So some of you might be really cultivating a new chapter over the next 5 or 6 months, sort of bringing you into 2026, thinking about your financial future, what you want to manage, what resources you have, or you could be creating that new chapter, new ideas or opportunities to dive into your transformational work, transformational decisions that ultimately lead to more empowerment and expansion in your lives. Peeling back the next layer, once this moon starts to separate from the sun, it's still in a new moon phase, but as soon as it starts to separate from the sun, it starts to immediately apply to forming a yod formation. Now, some of you have heard of yods before. They're also called the finger of God, which is like wildly intense in my opinion, but the moon moves quickly, but I think it's worth noting the brief yod formation it's going to make with Neptune in Aries and Uranus in Gemini. So there's this additional layer of pressure, even restlessness, to figure it all out, to initiate this new chapter or idea. Some of you might be doing it in a way where you're you're researching, you're investigating, you're going from new information to new information to new information to sort of uncover it. Or maybe it's through transformational work where you have this insatiable pressure or restlessness to uncover transformational work and get to the bottom of, whatever the situation is, or why you are the way you are, or whatever is coming up around this time. You sort of get the point that I'm saying. There is this restlessness and nervousness and pressure that could really affect all of us collectively around this time. But for you, the apex planet, the moon, is in that 8th house. And that is getting 2 quincunxes. So it's getting 2 aspects involving an adjustment. So some of you might be creating a new chapter, but having to feel that pressure, restlessness of, okay, what adjustments do I want to make to the finances or financial management or, loans, mortgages, whatever it may be, partners' resources if applicable. Or like I said, it could be more of the transformational work, the transformational decisions around this time. Now, some of us are going to maybe experience that restlessness or pressure in a variety of ways, but I think some of you could feel it through the moon, so your emotions. Some of you could feel it through Neptune, or some of you could be literally dissociating or experiencing or focusing more on the spiritual component. So some of you might be seeking your spirituality, your beliefs, sort of mysticism, the metaphysical to sort of like guide you through this period in time. Some of you might be working with Uranus or feeling it with Uranus, that stimulation to the nervous system. So some of you could be very stimulated, very anxious, sort of literally go, 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 go. Like your nervous system could be really activated around this time, briefly on this day with this yod formation. Again, the moon moves very quickly, but I think it's worth noting if you're feeling that tension and pressure, even like ruminating thoughts about, okay, how do I figure this out with, the investments, the assets, the partner's resources, like what's going on with finances or the transformational work. It will start to separate quite quickly, but I think it's worth noting. Now, peeling back the next layer. At the base of this yod formation, we have Neptune and Uranus. They're technically in a sextile, so they're sort of speaking the same language in this yod formation. And Neptune is reporting to Mars because it's in Aries, ruled by Mars. And Uranus is reporting to Mercury because it's in Gemini, ruled by Mercury. And lo and behold, we have Mercury and Mars exactly conjunct in your Scorpio 9th house of growth and potential as this yod formation takes place and in this new moon phase. So as we peel back the layers, to me, it pulls back to this Mercury-Mars conjunction, where I think whatever new chapter you really want to cultivate or initiate around your transformational work or financial future, financial themes, that could create that pressure, that restlessness, that could ultimately be an invitation for some of us to navigate how we want to empower and expand by seeing what works, what we want to hold on to with Saturn versus what we really want to innovate and change with Uranus. That continues to peel back the layers that ultimately leads to, I think, a deeper conversation or communication around new motivations, new desires, new plan of action around your higher knowledge, continuing education, spirituality, publishing, teaching. Some of you, it could be career related, as well as travel. So again, some of you could be looking at your long-term financial goals, your transformational work, as well as that yod formation, the pressure, the restlessness, what needs to stay, what has that holding power, what needs to evolve and innovate. That ultimately, I think, leads a lot of Pisces risings to seeing or deepening, creating a deeper merging or relationship to new motivations, new desires, a new plan of action around the travel you want to do, the spirituality, the knowledge, the truth, the belief, the publishing, the teaching, really any specific theme that you have a deep relationship to regarding growth and potential, even ones I didn't list. That I think this could be a really strong communication that for some of you could just be internal, but for some of you, you might be communicating the desire for more growth and potential through new chapters, new opportunities through financial management or your transformational work.